A brand new Conan Exiles update has finally hit the live game, full of fixes, adjustments, and even a bit of new content too. Today we'll go over all the important information that you need to know. So firstly, this update has dropped onto all platforms, returning Xbox back to parity with PlayStation and PC. Xbox had missed out on a few updates over the past year or so, leaving them behind the current version at various points, but that platform will be brought back up to date with this update. Hopefully it's the last we see of Xbox's updates being delayed or held. Also, it's worth mentioning that I'm recording this video before the update actually comes out. Release day is my birthday, funnily enough, so I'm trying to get this done ahead of time, thus I won't be able to share any impressions myself from this patch, but do let me know yours in the comments. Anyway, let's look at what's changed. So these patch notes are fairly extensive, covering a lot of different things of varying importance. We'll go through each category and pick out the most pertinent ones, but I'll also leave the link to the full patch notes in the description. Firstly, we've got fixes to the general gameplay and systems, and the following has been fixed. Attribute points could desync after level ups during server crashes. The coup de grace truncheon did not properly kill tier 1 to tier 3 thralls. Stacking and clipping issues affected various placeable items, including kegs, tables, desks, and paintings. Stability loss on upgraded altars occurred if placeables were present during model scaling changes. Crafting the keystone did not return the item or ingredients on dedicated servers when using the drag and drop method. The battering ram was not available for crafting at the appropriate stations. Player characters could respawn inside previously visited dungeons after death or re-logging. Dismemberment effects from the Battle Pass content were not triggered as expected. The sated food buff unintentionally reduced base health values. Unlocking the quick-footed perk previously caused animation issues during normal walking, and fixed the issue of splitting a stack on the hotbar, causing half of it to disappear. On the Bazaar fixes front, this list is a little smaller, but I'll include them all, as, to be honest, I think these fixes are important for anyone who's spent their money in the Bazaar. They are as follows. Numerous Bazaar assets failed to appear in the Ancestral Knowledge or Admin panel after purchase. Clipping or improper placement behaviour affected several Bazaar decorations and structures. Incorrect placement and dismantling SFX were assigned to various Bazaar items, for example wood items were using stone sounds. The Claw Training emote bundle did not unlock the unarmed emote unless granted via an admin tool. The die slots on several armour pieces were missing, non-functional or misconfigured. Weight values were identical across Bazaar pet variants regardless of type, for example normal, alpha and greater all weighed the same when they shouldn't. Turanian tiger cubs incorrectly transformed into default tiger cubs during revive attempts. The Hyrcanian painted horse could not be moved into stables and failed to produce dung. Some items were found to have missing collision, for example paper lanterns and market round tents. And they also fixed some cosmetic naming inconsistencies, including the term eyebrows listed as two separate words, which seems very minor but it's just a cleaning up thing. Following on from that, there's a number of fixes to the Purge system too that should hopefully make spawning and launching it more consistent, and the following has been fixed. Purge events failed to start under valid base camp conditions. HUD messages, threat indicators and victory messages for the Purge were not localized. Users could reach a negative threat level which prevented progression. Damage could be dealt to caged NPCs before the liberation sequence completed. Performance degradation occurred during simultaneous Purge events. Forward operating base spawn logic allowed bases to generate on already claimed player land. I'm not sure if that will help with people griefing other people's bases in PvE with the Purge, hopefully it will. And lastly, the Purge accountant dialogue failed to trigger correctly in single player. The next patch comes to the crafting and knowledge user interface, and the following has been rectified. Multiple items failed to appear at the appropriate crafting stations or under the expected subcategories, and the example given is the battering ram and some Bazaar items. Knowledge entries were miscategorized or missing for various unlockables. After purchasing, many Bazaar items did not unlock properly in Ancestral Knowledge, and finally, invalid or missing die slot configurations were found across several armour sets. There's a bit of overlap here between the crafting and knowledge UI fixes, and some of the Bazaar fixes, that's just because they both fall into the same category. Next up, there's some platform-specific fixes. They're all quite important, so I'll list them all off, and they are as follows. Addressed various crashes during UI navigation, loading screens or item placement on PC. Text flickering occurred in account settings at 1600 by 900 resolution in windowed mode on PC. The game could freeze when alt-tabbing or using the launcher continue button on PC. Over on Xbox, they fixed level of detail and texture streaming issues occurring in various areas. On both PlayStation and Xbox, the ping and player counts were not properly displaying on the server browsers. That has now finally been fixed. And finally, on PlayStation, initial login caused crashes on dedicated servers after the first boot sequence. That has also apparently been fixed. Next, we've got some building and placeable fixes. Not too many, but there are a couple of prominent ones, and those are that certain decorations and doors could be repeatedly placed in the same location, causing overlap, and that snapping, stacking, and collision issues affected a variety of placeables and structural elements. Both of those have been fixed. In the ambient life section, which I think refers to living settlements, there are a few notable entries. The following has been addressed. Ambient thralls failed to interact properly with smart objects. Pathing issues led to ambient NPCs getting stuck in doorways or overlapping paths. Bar patrons were unable to open doors, or they resumed unintended interactions after being interrupted. And lastly, accumulated thralls stacked in fixed locations or appeared in idle T-poses. Those have all apparently been fixed. In the companion segment, we unfortunately only have a single fix, and that is to properly despawn the mobs around the volcanic forge when you're initiating the forge fight quest step with Freya. From what I can tell, both Freya and Lu Fei still have some significant issues, and I gotta say, I was hoping for more here to fix them up. Finally, some miscellaneous fixes. Some things have been rectified in text and localization, cleaning up translations and typos across various different languages. There's also some technical fixes, such as addressing various exploits and cheats, alongside optimizations and fixes to streaming and loading, alongside logging too. This update has also introduced a new event, the Dark Dregs dungeon. This time-limited event is an alternative take on the pre-existing Dregs dungeon, offering a new experience whilst it's active and some new rewards to earn too. Some of this was already partially discovered through the dev kit a while ago, but this is the first time it's actually playable as intended, so hopefully it will be a nice bit of new content to enjoy. Again, I'm recording this before the actual update comes out, so I haven't played it myself. From what we know, I think the premise is pretty solid, so I hope it'll go down well. So overall, a big variety of things in this patch, but no real huge hitters that stand out, at least not at first glance. There are some potentially important fixes and adjustments here, including the fixes to attribute point desync, the player count display on consoles, that is quite a big one, crashes on PlayStation, thrall pathing, and purge improvements. Though I don't often have many issues with the purge, I know a lot of people do, and getting that consistent would be a win. The last entry addressed various exploits and cheats, could also be quite an important one. Obviously the details are vague for a reason, we've discussed why a few times in the past, but if it makes official servers a bit more playable, that is great. However, that being said, I think there definitely will be some disappointment from these patch notes. Very few fixes in the way of companions, which have been a bit of a pain since release. Some of the fixes to ambient thralls, which again I think of the living settlement ones, sound good, but I'm not sure if it sounds like enough to fix that system, though I don't think the system is being re-enabled with this update. There's no mention of thralls disappearing or sinking into foundations either, two quite big issues. I will say, I've not heard too much about those two problems since the last time Living Settlements was turned off, but that doesn't always mean it's slowed down or stopped, of course. It could just be that the players who suffered it got fed up and either changed how they played or, well, stopped playing altogether. We'll have to see how everything shakes out. It's possible that these fixes have unforeseen effects of making the game more stable overall. That would be a very welcome surprise, but of course, as we all know too well, it's also possible they'll have unintended consequences and create even more issues. Hopefully not, but, you know, we have to remain realistic. Anyway, that's the lay of the land for now. By the time you're watching this, the latest Conan Exiles update is officially out on all platforms. If we're judging by what came after the last major update, we'll hopefully see a few hot fixes coming afterwards for minor fixes or any issues that were created by this update, but the one thing I do want to hear more of is what's coming in the future. The patch day release blog may have more of this. If it does, then just ignore what I'm about to say, but I really want to hear more about what the devs are planning on addressing. I know, I've said this in pretty much every video I've made about the Age of Fixes, but I just want to hear more about what they're working on, their overall progress on making the game more stable, and just what's going on, basically. I think we really need some set-in-stone goals for what this age is meant to do, because at the moment I can kind of see why some people would think that they're kind of just throwing fixes at the wall. Anyway, that will about wrap us up for today. I'll be keeping my eyes on the fallout of this update and how things play out, and of course I'll be covering anything you need to know about this patch and Conan Exiles itself as and when it appears. Of course, if you have some thoughts on this update, do let me know in the comments. Thanks for watching, and a massive thanks to our wonderful esteemed coffee cultists for continuing to support the channel over on Patreon. Do check out the Patreon page through the link in the description. There's early access to videos, wallpapers, video credits, blueprints, and much more, and joining us helps out the channel massively. Take care, and I'll see you soon.